What's good everyone, it's Steve from Sneaker Tech Talk, back with another video today. For today's video, we're gonna go over the biggest letdowns as far as basketball shoes go here in 2024. So without further ado, let's take a look. Alright, so none of these are in order as far as kind of like top 10 letdowns as far as performance basketball shoes go. But the first one on my list is the Air Jordan 39. Now this shoe honestly had a lot of the makings to be an awesome performance basketball shoe. But the one thing that this shoe was lacking was great lateral containment and support. I was sliding all over the footbed within the shoe on any hard lateral cuts, which just made this shoe almost unplayable for me. Being 6'2 or 6'3, around 215 pounds, this shoe was just kind of all over the place. And I did talk to a few people at the brand, and they confirmed that they fixed this issue with more supportive features, including a shank plate for players in the NBA. But the models on the current market aren't having that. This shoe had pretty decent materials with some really nice leather touches, pretty nice traction, and superb comfort underfoot with that full-length Zoom X and Zoom Air combo. I really wanted to love these, but they just didn't have adequate support for my playstyle, and that's why they make it on this list as far as biggest letdowns here in 2024. Next up on my list is the KD17. Now the aesthetics, I didn't mind the aesthetics of this basketball shoe, but just the overall performance of this shoe and just the brand's really becoming stale as far as what they're offering us. They've been changing up these Zoom Air kind of Zoom Strobel setups to kind of like Air Strobel with a 4-foot Zoom Air bag, and I just don't care for what they're doing as far as the cushioning setup. The traction has been pretty decent. Price point for around $200 Canadian, what you're getting, they're really giving you a downgrade with that heel Strobel and 4-foot Zoom Air bag. I really could not feel the Zoom Air bag much. The materials are very cheap, and just at that price point, honestly, I really wanted to like the KD17s, but they just didn't work for me on court as far as the cushioning goes. But sound off in the comments what you guys think of the Nike KD17s. Probably the biggest letdown on this list in total is the Kobe 8 Protro. Now, right off the bat, this shoe has awesome traction. The materials are more or less the same from the originals, kind of with that mesh upper. But the biggest letdown of this model is the midsole being a Phylon material that's brick-like, honestly, on foot. It's very hard on foot. And the drop-in midsole being a React drop-in midsole, it's very close to the floor, but there's basically no impact protection to the point where my shins were killing me after every time I played in that shoe. It just does not have adequate comfort underfoot. And that is that shoe's biggest downfall. They retail for $235 Canadian, I think $180 American. So for that price point, honestly, if they would have thrown in that React drop-in midsole coupled with a Zoom Turbo or Zoom Strobel setup, that would have been an awesome setup in the Kobe 8 Protros. But nonetheless, that's what we're getting. It's a pretty big letdown as far as the cushioning goes in the Kobe 8 Protro. Coming up next on my list is the two Hustle shoes this year, the GT Hustle 3 and the Academy. First off, with the 3, honestly, the materials were pretty cheap, and just the stack height of that shoe felt so unstable. I believe they had a React midsole, 4-foot Zoom Air bags, kind of like a horseshoe Zoom Air bag in the 4-foot. And I believe they had a Zoom Strobel setup as well. So a ton of cushioning within that shoe, but it just felt so unstable. Not to mention the fit of that shoe was all over the place. The first and second Hustles, I was at 10.5. I got a 10.5 in the 3s, and I could barely get them on foot. My toe was bashing through the end of the shoe. So just a really big letdown. And keep in mind that shoe retails for like 190 American dollars, like 250 here in Canada. A very expensive shoe nonetheless. But if you're a big player that loves a ton of cushioning, I would say go after that shoe. But it was just a letdown in my books as far as the price point and kind of what you were getting within that shoe as far as the overall performance package. Next up on my list is the Hustle Academy. Honestly, that is probably one of, if not the worst, like of all time, Nike basketball shoes ever. I realized that that shoe retails for $125, but the materials were absolutely garbage. The cushioning was atrocious. Like, it was basically a Phylon midsole that had no compression, so it was very close to the floor up front, but there was really no cushioning running throughout that shoe. The traction pattern was kind of flaking off as I was playing with it. Honestly, I don't even think those are worth $125. I think those are worth like $29.95. The fit was very snug. If you're gonna grab that shoe, I recommend right off the bat, go up half a size for the Hustle Academy. But for me, it just did not do well for my playstyle. That's why it makes it on this list for one of the biggest letdowns here, if not the biggest, in 2024. Another huge letdown for me was the Zion 3, but more specifically the SE. They had another shot at that shoe to make things better, specifically the traction pattern. And all they did was swap the translucent to the front, I believe, and the solid portion to the back. They didn't change up the outsole at all, and I get it, they don't want to pour new lasts for the outsole of the Zion 3 SE, but honestly, it was just such a narrow shoe. I don't know how anyone plays within that shoe. The traction, I was sliding all over the court. It collects a ton of dust. The cushioning setup was that shoe's biggest kind of like upgrade. It had full length Zoom Air, so I really enjoyed the cushioning underfoot, specifically with that Velcro strap. But just the narrowness of the shoe and the traction pattern, both of those being huge letdowns. And coming up last on this list would be the Way of Wade Ice Blood 2s. Now, I said these Zions were narrow. These shoes were even more narrow. The length was more or less fine, but honestly, like, I could barely get my foot in this shoe, and I don't have a wide foot at all. If anything, I have a narrow foot. The Ice Blood 2s from Way of Wade were atrocious as far as the width goes. The overall traction and comfort underfoot were awesome, but I had a ton of pain on the sides of my foot when I was trying to break that shoe in, to the point where I almost gave up multiple times. The materials are very thin, kind of like a Leno weave material, like Jordan brand material. So the materials aren't terrible, but the biggest portion of that shoe that let me down, at least, was the fit. The fit was unbearable. I don't understand how anyone can play in that shoe. I think if I even went up to a size 12, I'm usually a 10.5. I don't think I could have done that shoe. A huge letdown, and especially for the price point of like $170. I think you're getting some nice cushion and traction, but the fit and materials were pretty cheap and just didn't work for me in general. And all right, so that's gonna do it for today's video of the biggest letdowns for me here in 2024. Sound off in the comments, what are your biggest letdowns for performance basketball shoes across the board? One other shoe I could kind of put on this list for a specific feature would be the AE1 Low. I loved everything about that shoe, minus the fact that they took the bungees away from the tongue. When you're playing in that shoe, the tongue is just going all over the place, sliding around. I can snug that shoe up as much as I want. It does not matter. That tongue is just free flowing within that shoe. So that was a pretty big letdown on the low tops. I would recommend not doing that next time around on the AE2 lows. But sound off in the comments, what were your biggest letdowns for performance basketball shoes here in 2024? But as always, thanks for watching today's video. If you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, that would definitely help the channel a ton. And check out my Instagram over at Sneaker Tech Talk, as it is an extension of my YouTube channel with all my pickups, basketball footage, and nostalgia as a whole. As always, thanks for watching today's video, and until next time,